Hello and welcome back. Before we get to part 2, Real Talk, please allow us to fulfill our capitalistic duty and plug our Patreon, the Contrarians Supplements.
That's right. For a small fee, you too can help the Contrarians rage on.
We have tiers ranging from just $1 to $10. It all depends on how much content you can handle.
Starting at $1, it's the Travoltis tier, which gets you access to new bonus episodes focusing on a new movie every month, as well as access to the patron chat. Join other patrons in making fun of our opinions.
Moving up to $3 is the Winoni's tier, which unlocks access to our pre-recording notes, our video reviews, and our spin-off show, Contrarians After Hours.
That's a more laid-back space where we talk about other things we've been watching, reading, playing, thinking about. Sometimes it's related to the movies being covered in the main feed, but it usually isn't.
If you want to be part of those patrons who help us shape the show by telling us which movies to tackle, that's when you sign up for the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10, the Gads.
Finally, all supplement subscribers, regardless of the tier, get access to our archive of special patron projects. Head over to patreon.com/contrarianprime now to join.
Be sure to listen through the end of the episode to find out what's coming up to the Contrarian Supplements this month. Now, it's time for some Real Talk.
We did get a donation come in there, and that sound drop scared the shit out of me, Julio, because I was not ready for it. I did go ahead and load it. We've got a special sound drop courtesy of Julio in the thing there. Dale donated $5 and said Alex is fat.
I messaged the boys group chat a minute ago. It's like, hey, I'm doing my annual cancer benefit. I'm taking part in it. If y'all want to donate $5 and call me fat, it'd be appreciated.
Oh, there you go.
So we got a $100 donation. We got a $100 donation from the Pint. I'm going to guess that's John. Alex and Julio rule. Cancer rules. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, while we're in the subject of the nations, that's the other thing that we're going to do on this segment, besides talking about the movies that you put on the chat. For every $75 that we hit on donations, we're going to put on a performance. Sometimes, if there's 3 characters, Nick will join us. He has a script. But we will reenact scenes from horror movies, and whoever in the chat guesses the movie first will get a prize. That prize may be...
Before we get back into My Cousin Vinny and how we really feel about it, at the time of recording, this past weekend, Julio and I took part in yet another live stream for The Cure, an annual event that we are always looking forward to, and we even talked about in our hour we had there about how it's kind of something we center our podcasting around annually. Had a great time as always. We exceeded our goal during our hour. We helped, raise money, obviously, for a very good cause, and we even got to put our acting chops on display. Julio, definitely, I would say one of the more successful outings we've had with the live stream guys.
Yes. Also, I want to say one of the least stressful. I would like to say that it's because we get better every year, but I know that it's actually just because acting out scenes from horror movies is a lot easier than singing Disney songs. And so compared to what we did last year, this was a breeze, man. It was just, it was easy. Also, horror is very much your sandbox. So I was relaxed because I knew that whatever came our way as far as stuff that the audience threw at us, I'm like, Alex got it. I just have to be support here. So
just playing backup.
Yeah. So no, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I went through the chat. I was telling this to Alex before we started recording because I can hardly ever look at the chat while we're doing the live stream. So then I have to catch up later just to see if I missed anything or anything got, slipped through the cracks. Stuff that didn't get picked up. And I'll tell you, the main thing that I wish I had noticed so I could have shouted out was our friend and past guest and the man behind the top 100 movies list that we revisit from time to time here and on the Patreon channel. Jordan Mans, he was there. I don't remember what his name was, but the first thing he wrote was like, I'm listening to this while I'm watching a sleeping baby. So I'm guessing Kinsey was at work and he was taking care of the baby and still found a way to log into the live stream. And that was really cool. And we missed his one horror movie.
Uh-oh.
Jordan threw out the one movie on the chat that somehow we missed. We didn't pick up. And it was Beyond the Black Rainbow. Do you know that movie, Alex?
I don't believe so. Let me see here. A Canadian psychedelic science fiction horror film. No.
Is it from the director of that other movie he made us watch with Nicolas Cage? What was it? Where the meteor falls on his house.
Yeah, I know what movie you're talking about. The color of something or some shit like that. No, but he did direct Mandy, another Nicolas Cage movie.
Okay, well, whatever the case, Beyond the Black Rainbow, Jordan was one of the first ones there, but I guess we were acting at that time, and then we didn't pick it up. And, we'll make it up to you, Jordan. We'll do something rainbow related, maybe this or maybe something else. But thank you, and thank you everybody else that was there. There were a lot of patrons.
Color Out of Space, that's what it was called.
There you go. Yeah, we had a lot of patrons, a lot of familiar names on the feed. It was cool. I understand that it's always tricky. I honestly always my hat off to Katie from For Your Reference. She's usually there, and I know that for her, she's in Australia, so it was like 6 a.m.
Jesus.
but she usually doesn't miss it, so it was cool that she was there.
Yeah, my buddy Brody was active in the chat, even if he was just making jokes like solely to pop me and that no one else would get. And our buddy Joe Holbert stopped by for a minute and donated. And a couple of my friends donated anonymously under the guise of calling me fat, which I encouraged. So I don't want anyone to think that was out of line. And
then Zoe donated and said, "Alex is not fat." I remember that.
Oh, that was her? I was trying to figure out who that would have been. Okay.
Yeah,
God
I
bless.
recognize her handle. I don't remember what it was now, but I think it's the same that she has on Instagram.
God bless Zoe. Everyone who supported, it was great. And anyone who threw just even a couple bucks our way, it was greatly appreciated. And Nick and Dan and Gerald, I mean, we always have a fucking good time. And our format this year seemed really more relaxed in that we didn't have our spots that we were trying to hit necessarily, and that always comes from a place of wanting our hour to be the best it possibly can be, but this year felt really relaxed and kind of just flew by. It was a really good time.
Yeah, I think that the element of having the chat guess the movie really added that extra dimension that made it even more interactive than it's been in the past, and that was a lot of fun. But as you mentioned, Alex, we hit our goal, so that means that we, at some point between now and the next live stream, we're going to have to do commentaries for all 5, 6 Exorcist movies.
Oh Jesus!
Because it's 6 if you count both versions of the fourth one.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Maybe we'll just do one, and then we'll watch the other one. We'll just do like a mini episode on whatever the director's cut is.
Mainly, it was just me finally getting Julio to fucking watch Exorcist 3 with George C. Scott. That's Exorcist 3 is fantastic. So I greatly look forward to us adding these all, because Julio's also seen 2 and I haven't. He's told me it's terrible, so that'll be an interesting.
I would be curious to see if you think that this gimmick was worth it. This whole thing was worth it. I get to watch the third one, but that means that you have to watch the second one.
But we also, me slightly more than you, but being fans of the original, we'll get to revisit that in a fun way. So in the end, we crossed the goal we had for donations to cancer research. So this is it's a net positive, I'm going to say, Julio.
Yes, yeah, we stuck it to cancer, and you are going to get more entertainment out of us, even more than you were already getting. So win-win for everybody, and we have a year to figure out what we're doing on the next one, but stay tuned.
Now, Ms. Vito, being an expert on general automotive knowledge, can you tell me what would the correct ignition timing be on a 1955 Bel Air Chevrolet with a 327 cubic inch engine and a 4-barrel carburetor?
It's a bullshit question.
Does that mean that you can't answer it?
It's a bullshit question. It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
Your Honor, I move to disqualify Ms. Vito as an expert witness.
Can you answer the question?
No. It is a trick question.
Why is it a trick question?
Watch this.
Because Chevy didn't make a 327 in 55. The 327 didn't come out till 62. And it wasn't offered in the Bel Air with a 4-barrel carb till 64. However, in 1964, the correct ignition timing would be 4 degrees before top dead center.
Speaking of entertainment, My Cousin Vinny, a film that Roger Ebert gave 2.5 stars out of 4.
Oh,
Declared, he said, despite Macchio's co-star billing, the actor was given little to do. The film seemed adrift until lightning strikes with the final courtroom scenes.
Roger's a big Karate Kid fan.
Siskel liked it more, singling out the screenplay. Yeah, that's a classic, like, Ebert thing of getting hung up on something really strange. What did he think Ralph Macchio was going to do? Well, again, I need to be fair at this. In 1992, we didn't know what Marisa Tomei was capable of. In fucking 2025, you see those 3 names together, and you're like, why is Ralph Macchio there? But,
Right. But back then, it's a Karate Kid.
Yeah.
This is after the 3rd Karate Kid, though. So really, Ralph Macchio was just running on fumes. He needed to find a new franchise.
Watching this through today's lenses, it feels that way. It feels the way of like this was kind of an extended stay for him, because
like you get one more.
Well, and he's good in this because it's very limited, like what he does. I think it's just well, look, we've talked about it. Be it Superman or Jesus. There's some roles that you take on, and he was Dan LaRusso, man, and there's only so much you can do after those Karate Kid movies, and I mean that in like almost a positive way.
I
So
mean,
him
Alex,
and this,
he embraced it because, in fact, he keeps playing the same character. That Cobra Kai show for a few years ago, that it started as the story of the bad guy, but he was. Ralph Macchio was there kind of like a supporting character, but now I haven't watched the last season, but it's basically a 2-hander. Now he's basically one of the main characters too. So he's come full circle to play in the Karate Kid, and there's a movie coming out. I know this because look, this is how I got to it. I could remember what Ralph Macchio sounded like. So I didn't know if he had that New York accent always or if that was just a put on for the movie. So I did a search on YouTube. I was like, Ralph Macchio. And the first thing that came up was an interview from this year where he's promoting the new Karate Kid movie that's coming out, I don't know, sometime this year. It's him and Jackie Chan and I guess the new Karate Kid. And they're at this British talk show.
Oh, yeah. I've seen spots for this, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's there and he's talking without the New York accent. So I was like, all right, well, that mystery's solved. And then I was like, oh, but then that means that he is in a new Karate Kid movie coming out. So I'm guessing that it carries over from the show. But the thing is, I feel fine making jokes about Ralph Macchio kind of hitting a lull after the Karate Kid because he's doing fine right now. He's doing... He's in bed with Netflix and he's playing the character. He's embraced playing the character that basically made him popular back in the 80s. So it's not one of those cases where he seems to be bothered by his legacy in pop culture. There's a guy that was like, all right, so that's what you want me to be? I'll be that. He seems fine. Nobody remembers him as the guy from My Cousin Vinny, though.
I'm curious how many times he gets approached. It's like, hey, Bill Gambini. Someone,
Where's your cousin?
Where's your lawnmower, man? 85% of Rotten Tomatoes. Before we just get into it, Julio, which negative reviews did you pull for us?
All right, we're going to start with a familiar name. Green splotch from Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly, who says, My Cousin Vinny is the definition of obvious, and it's way too long. Do films like this really need an hour's worth of setup? But Pesci and Tomei make a first-rate team. So even a rotten quote acknowledges that Pesci and Tomei, they do all right. Did you buy the chemistry between them, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a couple. I mean, because I think they're a good team, right? But I don't know if it's something that the movie would work better if he was the lawyer and she was his legal assistant. I mean, it's so hard because Joe Pesci is so ingrained in my brain as the mobster from the Scorsese movies. that it's really hard to see him play a role that's kind of far from that. Like I can't see Joe Pesci with a girlfriend. I think that's my problem. I can see him with hookups, right? Like that you see him get in the mobster movies, but him being in a loving relationship with Marisa Tomei, I don't know if that was a bridge too far, but it was definitely something that kept not bugging me, but it just kept coming up in my head. I was like, do I buy this? Or is it just that she's really good, so I'll buy it because of her? All right, next. Kathleen Maher from our very own Austin Chronicle says, there's a lot of wasted effort here trying to distract us from what we know good and well is going to happen. Nevertheless, it's time pleasantly spent. There's another negative review that is like, you know what? It was fun. Predictable, right? Did anything in this movie surprise you, Alex?
I guess I was kind of surprised by how many times I laughed really hard. There was a lot of stuff in this I found really funny. I expected it to be kind of cute and quirky, and just based on my vague memories of my first time around, I knew it was fun. But there's some really, really funny shit in this.
I want to say this played pretty much along the lines of what I expected from just knowing the pitch, right? He's going to be a city lawyer in a small town with a hot girlfriend. The prison rape stuff was kind of, I guess I didn't expect that.
It started funny. It just, that scene went on too long.
Yeah, you're right. That's the problem. I just remember thinking, it's not funny anymore. Please make it end. Next, Chris Hicks from Desert News, Salt Lake City says, there's a film that gets better as it goes along, but not enough better to make much of a difference. I agree with Ebert, and I guess this guy's kind of saying it too, that I felt it hits its stride once it actually gets to the courtroom and we get to the trial. So I agree in that sense that it's better as it goes along. Does it make a difference? I think it does. Obviously, this guy disagrees. But I mean, do you like the movie uniformly, Alex, or are you more like me, where I find that it really is the last 40 minutes or so that make it memorable?
It really kicks into gear in the third act, yeah, but I find the whole movie to be pretty endearing.
All right. Well, we'll have a disagreement that we need to suss out. We're going to close with Richard Corliss from Time Magazine, who says, nothing makes a moviegoer feel more isolated than sitting stony-faced through a comedy that makes the rest of the audience laugh and cheer. That was me watching the Lego movie. Do you have a movie, Alex, that everybody thinks is funny and you don't care for it at all?
Probably. I've never been in a movie theater with a bunch of people that were laughing and I was like, ugh. I mean, Family Guy is an example of something that people swear is hilarious, and I'm just like, I am like Cartman that way. You ever seen that South Park where they're like, it's one of their many times they take a shot at Family Guy, but all the kids are sitting together watching Family Guy, and it's just, yeah, that's like the time I did this, and then all the kids start laughing, and Cartman just goes, and he's just squirming in his seat, getting uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I've never been to a movie that was packed and people were laughing, and I was like, this isn't funny. But I know the feeling. Pretty much anything Seth MacFarlane does. Those Ted movies, I remember in booth watching some of it and being like, this isn't funny.
But you could see the people losing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it possible the two youths?
To what? What was that word?
I toyed with this in Contrarians Corner. Obviously, I was just trying to be over the top, but Joe Pesci as a comedian, I don't know if that's a thing. That is not fair, because actually, he's really funny in Home Alone, right?
He's really funny in this.
I think he's occasionally funny in this.
When he runs out with his sneakers on, but in his underwear and the leather coat on, he just fires that gun off randomly, trying to get rid of the owl.
You
didn't laugh at that?
No, but I didn't think, this is not funny. I felt that some of his Joe Pesci-isms were just not funny. I really got tired of him just yelling and freaking out. And it's funny because this is the episode that follows Tommy Boy. And I was trying to come up with a way in Contrarians Corner of equating this and saying that Joe Pesci couldn't pull off what Chris Farley pulled off in Tommy Boy, which is making me laugh with the broad comedy, right? Here he slips in the mud and he gets woken up in the middle of the night and he screams and he says fuck and all this stuff. And I was like, that was funny a couple of times, but it just kind of keeps happening. Like most of the running jokes that the movie has, like I was not really finding them as amusing as I think I needed to. And maybe it ties into something I said in Contrarians Corner, which is that his incompetence as a lawyer was really bothering me. It was really frustrating because I just wanted him. That's the part, I guess, where my expectations were really different from the movie that we got, where I thought that he was going to show up and it was really going to be a battle of the minds between him and this other town. And it was going to be more even, right? He gets flustered. He doesn't know the culture, but he's also smart. And so he gets some wins, he gets some losses. But instead, most of the first half of the movie is just him bumbling about until he finally jumps into action, in the second half. And so maybe that is also why I didn't find him so funny. I was just, man, can you be smart already? I guess throughout our entire Contrarians run, we've established that physical comedy plays better for you than for me. So do you think that's part of it? He doesn't get kicked in the balls here, but he slips a couple times in the movie and he just has these big moments where he's flustered, I'm guessing you found that funny.
Not to like the degree that you're implying that you jingle keys in front of me and I laugh at, but
as I was saying, I was like, this doesn't sound right. I don't mean to say that it's very easy to make you laugh because fuck, I know for a fact that you don't when you don't like a movie. The MCU tries so hard to make you laugh, Alex, and you're like, yeah, whatever. But no, I guess what I'm saying is like there were things that I just didn't find funny in the movie in that first half, and I am guessing that you did.
The first time the whistle goes off and he jumps out of bed, it's like, what the fuck is that? That made me laugh. And then I wasn't like laughing at the mud, him slipping in the mud. The way him and Marisa Tomei would talk to each other made me laugh, like how mean they were. And I'm not kidding. It's called disclosure, you dickhead. That is so fucking funny. I'd lost my fucking shit at that line, dude. We didn't talk about in Contrarians Corner the weird like foreplay scene where she's like role playing as a saleswoman. And then they fuck. Like that's
I wasn't sure what was going on there.
Dude, Marisa Tomei could, like, if she wanted to role play that she's gonna sell me a beef stew popsicle, I'll be like, whatever, man. Let's fucking do it.
Give me the specs.
Read off the benefits to me. Bottom line it for me. So I thought like all his interactions with Fred Gwynn were really funny, and I guess the thing I would not say is that the physical comedy of it was something that was really like hitting on all cylinders for me. The payoff to the fight with JT was very funny, and the way he played him, like I could see that not working for you because you don't like that drawn out shit where he's so $200. I get it if I kick your ass. Show me the money. And then he sees him again later in the movie and he's like, I got it right here. He's like, no, that's just a 20 wrapped around some ones. Fan it out for me. And then when he finally has it, he's like, hey, Mr. Yankee, look what I got here. And then he fucking, like I said, he Superman punches him like he's Roman Reigns and knocks him out there.
That part was funny. The punch was funny. The build up to the punch, I was like, what's the play here? I don't get it. It's just because I thought they needed the money. You know what I mean? Like he goes in because
he did, but he played him for it.
Right. But in the meantime, it was like, couldn't you just get the money? Like, you know what I mean? Like if he's going to kick his ass, and I understand that the element of surprise was part of it, but he walks into that scene the first time that they meet. And I'm thinking, okay, so he's going to, I don't know that he's going to fight this guy, but he's going to outsmart him in a way that he's going to come out of this scene with $200. But instead he didn't. And what he did was set up an inconvenience for him for the rest of the movie, because he even complains about it at some point. He's like, this guy wants to fight me. I was like, well, you set that up for yourself. So I guess whenever that running joke came up, I just couldn't understand the logic of it. I was like, do you want the money? Do you not want the money? I guess it's all worth it because the punchline made me laugh. But it's also, this is how my brain works, Alex. He did that because he was in a hurry, right? Like this after he slipped in the mud, so he's trying to get home, take a shower, so he can get to court. So if he hadn't been in a hurry, how does that scene play out? Does he still like just kind of walked up to the guy and punch him, or does he try to like, I don't know. You didn't think about any of this, right? You were just like, fuck it.
No. Yeah. No, I thought it was
joke.
funny. I also found him walking into the courtroom in that like maitre d' outfit with the bow tie to be fucking hilarious, and it sounds like that's not something that worked for you either.
Like that wasn't. I mean, I appreciate
the whole store's got the flu.
There's something about Joe Pesci's delivery that I just didn't find funny. Maybe that might not be a good example. Like I understood the situation was funny, right? The fact that he gets stuck into wearing this suit. And I definitely found Fred Gwynn's like reactions to it kind of funny, like his disbelief. But many times when it got to just the dialogue, I just wanted it to be a little more quippy. And I don't think that Pesci plays quippy very well. Instead, he just plays angry and frustrated. And I guess I just don't find that as funny. It's kind of unfair because that's the way that the character is pitched. Is like, well, he's supposed to be angry and frustrated. So it's my fault for wanting a quippier cousin Vinny. And I think that Marisa Tomei doesn't do him any favors. Like she seems so at ease playing comedy that it's a disadvantage for Pesci to be right there next to her because all she needs is like one close up and she was making me laugh.
Man, her wardrobe's fucking awesome in this movie, by the way.
Yes, it is. And the hair and everything. But when she gets him out of the first time she bails him out, I think, and he's like, I don't need this shit from you, because she's giving him a hard time, and he's like, I don't need this shit from you. I just need you to be supportive. And she goes like, oh, you want me to be supportive? Well, you did great.
You were wonderful in there. The way you handled that judge. Oh, you're a smooth talker. You are.
All right, knock it off.
See, she is funny.
Yeah, she's very funny. That's what I was saying. She understood what was at stake for this. I don't think she foresaw winning an Academy Award, but she definitely knew like this was a potential moment in the sun for her, and she takes full advantage of it. Whereas it feels like Pesci, which I enjoyed his performance more than you did apparently, but it feels like he's just kind of, he's not sleepwalking, but this certainly isn't, he's not Tommy from Goodfellas, you know?
No, but I don't know if he can be what I want him to be in this movie. So it's really kind of unfair. But it does feel like this was kind of a consequence of him winning the Oscar for Goodfellas, right? Because it was like 2 years before this.
Yes. Hilariously, I read the studio originally wanted Andrew Dice Clay, and this would have been after Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which I don't think did particularly well. I like Dice. I think he's funny, but man, this movie with him as the lead in it could have been like one of those all-time, like a Freddy Got Fingered situation. You can just see like in between scenes, you know, they're getting makeup done and Fred Gwynn's like, so what do you do? I mean, it does sound like I enjoyed this on a different level from you, and it's kind of tickling to me that the things you're singling out as things you didn't like really didn't do anything for me either. Like, it's not like, you know, the whole misinterpretation, the prison rape scene was, it's not like I found that funny, but I knew watching it, I was like, Julio's really not going to like this. And
I laughed at the beginning because like you pointed out in Contrarians Corner correctly, that kind of stuff usually makes me laugh. And I was not kidding. The first time it happens, when it's just Ralph Macchio confessing to a murder, not knowing, I was like, that is funny. I always bring this up, the scene in There's Something About Mary, when the same thing, Ben Stiller unknowingly is admitting that he killed a hitchhiker. No, that he's a serial killer. Yeah, it's kind of like the same dynamic, and it works better in There's Something About Mary because it's not followed by prison rape jokes later on.
Yeah, and I meant that too. It goes on too long. Like the idea of like Joe Pesci walking in and the guy being like, I don't know about this, you know, that could have maybe some legs to stand on, but then it just goes on.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to get down on your knees. It's like, okay, we get it. Let's move past this.
It does like 4 or 5 different like double entendres. You only needed one. I think that you needed one that landed, and then you need to move on from the joke. But instead, they do everything. Because doesn't he also say, it's your ass, not mine, or something? And I was like,
yes. Which, if that was like the lead off, if that was like the punchline,
Yep.
that would have been really funny. But it just went on. It took too long to get there, and then it still went past that.
Yeah.
I knew also, just to finish my thoughts of like being in the brain of my co-host, the stuttering scene. I was like, oh man, Julio's gonna fucking hate this.
Okay. Did you? I mean, you gave us a very what I felt was a very sincere story from your past.
Everything I said there, those are real words, and that's a real thing that happened, and that's literally why any type of stuttering joke has been ruined for me for life.
Well, this one wasn't funny, so there was nothing.
No, it
to
wasn't.
It was already bad. I was not getting a church corner though. The very end, the last thing that happens to that guy made me laugh. It was like that was a tough one. I don't know if that's exactly what it says, but that's the sentiment. But that's all the first half, Alex. And much like I said in the George Corner, I really, really liked once Joe Pesci gets to play the lawyer, and it makes me feel like the movie maybe would have benefited, or at least I would have liked it more, if there was more happening in the courtroom throughout the movie instead of us waiting, more than half the movie for the trial to start and for Joe Pesci to finally show us why he's so special. The way that he questions the witnesses, it's funny, and it's charming, it's smart, and it's kind of what I like from courtroom movies. As I was watching this, it just reminded me how much I like the genre. So maybe that's also part of it, right? Like I went into the movie expecting more courtroom antics, and it took them forever to get there. I thought it was going to be Joe Pesci being a funny lawyer, and instead he was kind of an idiot for half the movie before he got to be a funny lawyer. But I like those tropes. I like the interrogation scenes. I like the cross-examining. I like the big aha reveals, right? And how people... That's why, man, A Few Good Men. It's just the best possible example of how you do that kind of stuff and are so entertaining. And dude, find yourself someone that looks at you the way Marisa Tomei looks at Joe Pesci when he's doing the cross-examination. Because it's so awesome. Because she is seeing what we're seeing, that is that he's finally coming on to his own, and he's finally living up to the promise. Wow, he's going to save these kids.
He's fulfilling the prophecy.
Yeah, he is. He is. Even Fred Gwynn, he's like, what is happening? This guy. And now I have to take him seriously. He even apologizes.
Feel what you will about the movie. I think Fred Gwynn's going to be in serious Embry discussion when we get to award season, just because the facial acting he does, like there's just shots of this movie that rely on him to like emote.
Yeah.
Not say anything. And like, when he's realizing that Vinny's starting to like come through his job, and he does that thing where it's that old fucking timey actor thing, man. It's a lost skill where that shit of like, he's able to drain his face, but then pull his eyes back and be like, well, wait a minute, that, and the interaction he does have with Pesci, the scenes where he calls him into his quarters are pretty funny.
When he does the thing with the fingers and he accidentally is like, let the record reflect that he's holding 2 fingers.
So if you've never seen this movie and you're curious what the fuck we're talking about, one of the things Pesci does with one of the witnesses is she has glasses, and he goes to the back of the courtroom, and he goes because she's saying she saw the boys do this. So he goes to the back of the courtroom, and he puts 2 fingers up. He's like, how many fingers am I holding up? And Fred Gwynn goes,
Let the record show that counsel is holding up 2 fingers.
Your Honor, please, huh?
Oh. Sorry.
all right, so I'm glad you appreciate that. The bow tie is so good. Like when he comes into that maitre d' outfit, and Fred Gwynn's like, "Are you mocking me?" And he's like, "No, the only place to get a suit here is closed down. The store has the flu. The whole store has the flu." That is something worth talking about. It may seem funny, especially to I bet I know there were millions of folks that watched this movie laughing at the idea of a small southern town like this existing. And brother, I am here to tell you, to this day, there are towns like this that exist. That, man, some years back, I remember we went to Odessa, Texas, and we went into a Whataburger. It was me, Brody, AJ, and Julian. This is when me, Julian, and AJ all had long hair. We're all wearing black t-shirts, and the fucking grandma got ran over by a reindeer, went off the record player. Like, they just all like and just stared and looked at us, and we were like, huh. And then the guy behind the counter asked, "Is like, are y'all a band?" And I was just like, yeah. I remember turning to Julian and go, "Are we a band?" And Julian goes, "Yeah, we're called the Dragons." And that's just an example of, there are still these small fucking Texas towns. In Austin, people act like Austin, the surrounding areas are something different. It's not. You just have to drive fucking 30 miles in any direction. You will find some small town like this. I'm not saying they're going to be having a trial for murder, but I mean, Bernie's a great example. That's a true story. That's legit about Carthage. Like, they had to fucking move to a real city because they didn't think the local jury was going to be neutral enough in the case. Right. So to me, there is some comedy in the idea of this guy from the city going to this town, and hey, that's Family Stone, Meredith, oh, no one has shoes like me here, that type of shit. That stuff, after you've experienced small towns like that type of comedy will only get you so far. But I do find it funny that Pesci, his struggle through it, and like the menu when they go at the beginning of the movie, the menu has three items on it: breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, because the way they set it up, Marisa Tomei says, "I think breakfast." And Pesci's like, "Yeah, me too." And then you get the shot showing you the menu. It's like, oh, that's really all they have. Okay, but how do you think somebody from, say, Alabama feels watching this?
Them damn Yankees got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comedy, and you can always just say, like, dude, lighten up, right? It's just meant to be funny, and it's playing on the stereotypes or whatever. But I don't think there's a single character, maybe, Fred Gwynn.
He does paint all of the townspeople to be fucking morons.
Yeah, I mean, Fred Gwynn, he's funny, right? He has a presence, whatever. But he is not what I would consider a good judge. And then the sheriff and the DA, I mean, it's not that they're corrupt. It's just that they seem very uninterested in actually getting to the bottom of things. And so the best thing you can say about pretty much every character in the movie that is from that town is that they are kind of dumb. They're not very smart. And would I find it insulting if I was from... I don't know. I think it's kind of a harmless movie, but if somebody told me, like, fuck that movie for the way that they depict my state, I'd be like, you might be onto something. Like, I don't know what defense I would have other than, oh, it's a comedy, man. You shouldn't take it so seriously.
Yeah, I don't think a movie like this is one that I'd try to, like, stake my flag in the ground and, bicker over. But I say that, and, Hamlet 2 is one of my favorite modern comedies, and that was it Tucson? I remember, it was Tucson that they're based in. And the tourism board was very, very unhappy with that. And I think they tried to, like, prohibit the city from being mentioned in it or something. So, I don't know. People have no sense of humor.
Is it really that offensive? I mean, I've seen it only once, but I didn't realize that the city it takes place in, it's besmirched.
I mean, the last line of the movie is they're on Broadway, and one of the kids runs up to, what's that guy's name? Steve Coogan, and says, "This is great. I mean, compared to Tucson, at least." And Steve Coogan puts his hand on the kid's shoulder, and he's like, "You're going to have such a great life because everywhere you go will be better than Tucson." That's the last line of the movie.
I mean, that's just funny. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
Maybe what makes it worse is just that Joe Pesci is a Yankee. And so it's not just that you're depicting this town as being dumb, but also that the guy that comes to show you up is from the north. That might be a little too biased.
Oh, damn it. I was putting together this argument. Nell didn't come out until 1994. So I guess you could say, yeah, this is the movie of the Yankees teaching the Southerners, the backwoods folk, how we should all get together, and if I can change and you can change, anyone can change. And then Nell was the backwoods folk showing the limousine riding, jet flying folk. We're real people too, God damn it.
No self-respecting Southerner uses instant grits. I take pride in my grits.
All right. As we've mentioned, obviously the takeaway from this movie contemporaneously was Marisa Tomei. She did take home the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award at the 65th Annual Academy Awards, hosted by, you guessed it, Billy Crystal. This was a year we talked about recently in our show's history, as that was the year Unforgiven had the most nominations and ended up taking home the most awards. Marisa Tomei beat out Judy Davis for Husbands and Wives, Joan Plowright for Enchanted April, Vanessa Redgrave for Howard's End, and Miranda Richardson for Damage.
Man.
Oh, Damage is supposed to be one of those really intense erotic thrillers, right?
Jeremy Irons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have seen it. I don't remember anything, so maybe it wasn't that intense. Maybe I'm too jaded, Alex.
This is possible.
Give me Jeremy Irons full frontal or the fuck out of here. Husbands and Wives is a really good movie. Judy Davis is, everybody in it is good, but I didn't know that she'd be nominated.
Then, of course, the reason for the season, the MTV Movie Awards at the 1993 MTV Movie Awards, hosted by Eddie Murphy, taking place in Burbank, California, June 8th, 1993. Marisa Tomei took home the Breakthrough Performance Award, nominated alongside Halle Berry for Boomerang, Whitney Houston for The Bodyguard, Kathy Najimy, of future Peggy Hill fame, for Sister Act, and Rosie O'Donnell for A League of Their Own, which, say what you will about Rosie O'Donnell, she is pretty funny in that movie. This award was presented by Mary Stuart Masterson. Our musical performers that year: Duran Duran, Stone Temple Pilots, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and Rod Stewart.
Man,
that's a normal Saturday night right there.
We will be revisiting this category because we have The Bodyguard in our future this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I told you before we started recording, I was able to find this on YouTube, and I was just kind of skimming through it. The little bit I saw of Eddie Murphy hosting, you would hate it because he's wearing sunglasses indoors.
Eddie can do that.
I just happened to land on the spots where he was just reading the teleprompter, but it didn't seem to me like he was putting on an act. But it's a whole 2 hours, so maybe there's some funny Eddie Murphy stuff in there. Marisa Tomei, because I was just basically scanning looking for Marisa Tomei, and the first time I stopped it was not her getting the award, but instead it was her presenting an award. She came out with the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Is it Kiedis? Anthony Kiedis?
Anthony Kiedis, yeah.
Yeah, they both come out for the Best Action Sequence award. And they read the nominees, and then before they announce the winner, in a moment that I hope was scripted, but they're playing it like it wasn't, Anthony Kiedis tells the audience,
"Now, I noticed a lot of you look perfectly riveted out there, and you're thinking a lot of this might be, somewhat of a rig, and I kind of thought it was a rig myself, so I'm here to find out for myself, which, I encourage all of you to do as well."
And then he grabs Marisa Tomei and kisses her. He pulls an Adrian Brody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they break off, and she kind of laughs about it, and then they announce the winner. And I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that's peculiar.
Yeah.
I think that's the polite word I could use to describe that. It's peculiar.
Yeah. But then, you get to the winner, and it's funny because when she goes to present the award for Best Action Sequence, they introduce her as Academy Award winner. So she already won the Oscar. So maybe I was just reading too much into it, but I kind of felt like she was there out of obligation, not because she really cared that much.
Pound for pound, little stick of dynamite. That's my trainer. And thanks to the people who gave me a chance, Jonathan Lynn and Joe Pesci and Dale Launer. Thank you very much.
She doesn't seem super excited when she wins Breakthrough Performance. And it's kind of funny because, yes, you already won the Oscars. So you already know that you broke through. I get that she wasn't thrilled, or maybe she was still reeling from the fact that the fucker from Red Hot Chili Peppers made a pass at her. I don't know. But anyway, it seems like a fun ceremony. At some point, I'll give myself the time to watch it beginning to end, especially because those lovely YouTube rips have all the commercials, and those old MTV commercials are amazing.
Beautiful.
Kurt Loder looks at how racists and neo-Nazis have turned rock into an instrument of hate in Europe and the U.S.
When the race war does come about, I will be ready. If it need be, I will shoot it.
Hate Rock, an MTV News Free Your Mind special.
All right, Julio, it's time to get down to business. Where'd you end up ranking this?
I think I'm gonna land with 3.5. 3.5 probably sounds better than I've been pretty negative in Real Talk, but that is because I have more to say about the good stuff is like, well, Marisa Tomei is awesome, Fred Gwynn is awesome, the courtroom stuff is great. So I feel like I just need to put on the work to explain why I don't like this movie more, and that's where the other stuff comes in. But 3.5, which is I think what I gave Tommy Boy, is that a good thing or a bad thing, Alex? I don't know. Obviously, I assume that you think Tommy Boy is a better movie.
Oh, I don't know about if I think it's a better movie. I think I have a stronger attachment to it. But it sounds like we're going to end up the same way on these. As 4 stars would be where I'd find it. An A for me, for My Cousin Vinny. I thought this was great. I thought it was a very easy watch. I thought it was very funny, very sharp. And it's called Disclosure, you dickhead. That's going to stay with me. And a movie I'd gladly watch again.
By the way, her Oscar clip, I watched it. It starts with Pesci jumping sitting on the table on the desk, where he says, "I can't wait to hear this. I would love to hear it." And then she starts talking. And, she doesn't get the full speech because those Oscar clips are pretty short, but she gets the first couple paragraphs, I think. And Pesci says, "I can't wait to hear this. Or I would love to hear this." And then they cut to Fred Gwynn. Fred Gwynn says, "Me too." And then she goes on to rant. I actually think that they could have picked any number of moments from the movie because she's always on and she's always really funny. So Marisa Tomei gets like the full 5 stars. The movie 3.5. And it's still, I would recommend it. And it's possible that I could enjoy it more the second time around. I just steel myself knowing that it's going to take a while before we get to the actual trial. Maybe a victim of its legacy too, Alex. I haven't watched this movie
That's fair.
ever. And so in my head, I built up everything to be maybe as good as I expected the Marisa Tomei performance to be. So
that is fair.
I got no more use for this guy.
All right, Julio, with that being said, what is next?
Coming up next on the Summer of the Bangers, Alex, this is a kind of a delayed episode dedicated to Val Kilmer. We talked about this a while ago, and it's finally going to come to fruition. We're going to do Batman Forever, Val Kilmer's one time playing Bruce Wayne and Batman. But it's also a Jim Carrey vehicle. And it
is certainly a Tommy Lee Jones vehicle.
Yep. Returning to the main feed only a couple episodes later, Tommy Lee Jones playing a very different character from his Oscar-winning turn in Fugitive. I'm not sure what this was nominated for, Batman Forever, but we'll talk about that when we get there. 1995, so it's the 1996 MTV Movie Awards. 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of those Batman movies that for the most part people will tell you sucks. But Alex and I famously...
Incorrectly.
Yes, we have defended it before on the show, and now we're going to devote an entire episode to doing so. And then I guess in Real Talk, we'll go even harder doing that. So Batman Forever, if you haven't watched in a while, do so you are ready for our next episode. And then as far as the Patreon feed, this month our bonus episode is on the movie Steel Magnolias, demanded by patron Ben Murray. That was a movie that I hadn't seen before, and as I found out when we started recording, Alex had seen plenty of times. So Julia Roberts back on the Contrarians spotlight, and a bunch of other actresses that really gave us a lot to talk about. As far as QVRs, Alex, I hope that by the time that this drops, we have at least watched and recorded our QVRs for Sultan and Barry Lyndon, the really long movies that are just kind of hanging over our heads. It will happen. We have a long weekend this coming.
Oh, it's true.
Weekend.
Good call.
Yeah, maybe I can do it then. And then we have Contrarians After Hours. Alex, what are you bringing to Contrarians After Hours this time?
Seems like I do this too often, and I do, but that just means wrestlers die too often, which they do. This 2 weeks ago, was it? Wrestler Terry Brunk, famously known as Sabu, passed away at the age of 60, and Sabu was, to call him a revolutionary wrestler would be like saying Marisa Tomei was okay in My Cousin Vinny. The guy who changed the game forever and had a pretty unique story about him too. So I'm going to talk to you, Julio, about the life and times of Sabu and also my personal memories and attachment to him. Because it honestly, it ended up, I was kind of surprised at how hard it hit me. Found myself for a couple days being kind of, in a little bit of a haze about it. So we'll talk about Sabu on my end. He wasn't a wrestler that really ever did, TV or commercials or movies or anything like that. So I can't really tie it in that way, but I'll be sure to bring some interesting little tidbits to it.
That's just part of life that we are. I think if I haven't mentioned on the show before, I might have told you in person, maybe when we're watching the Oscars, but how those in memoriams that you start recognizing more people as you get older.
Yep.
And that's just not just the in memoriams at the Oscars, but that's just life in general, right? Like the actors, the performers, entertainers that we grew up with, if they're older than us and usually older by a lot, then it kind of stands to reason that we're going to be fully aware when they pass.
Yep.
So that's how you're getting older.
Guess so.
On my end, Alex, I will keep us movie centered. One is a movie that we've referenced before, and I think last time I brought it up, you said, hey, when you watch it, let me know how it goes. So that's what I'm going to do. I watched Challengers, the tennis movie starring Zendaya.
Ah, yes.
That kind of love triangle from our pal, Luca Guadagnino, the guy behind Bones and All and the Suspiria remake.
Well.
But we like Zendaya. And Mike Feist is one of the guys in the love triangle. We liked him in West Side Story. So I think it's worth watching. So we'll see if I can convince you. And then much more recently, Steven Soderbergh had 2 movies out in 2025. I've watched one of them now. It's called Black Bag, and it stars Michael Fassbender as a spy, and he's married to Cate Blanchett. And when I watched the trailer, I actually brought this up on that episode I did with Jordan when you were sick, when we were talking about movies that we anticipated in 2025. I said I saw the trailer for this movie called Black Bag, and it seemed like Steven Soderbergh's serious take on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where it's like 2 spies that are married and then suddenly find themselves at odds with each other. That's not exactly what the movie is. Now that I've watched it, that's what the trailer was telling you. The movie's a little different, but it's Soderbergh, so it looks great. It has a great cast, and it can be very subdued in its emotions. So we're gonna walk you through it, and maybe you can help me figure out how much I like it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about it, but I also try to figure out why I don't quite love it the way other people are loving it. But yeah, Black Bag, Challengers, Sabu. That's all on our After Hours, and everything else that we mentioned on our Patreon channel, patreon.com/Contrarian Prime. Check that out. Now, let's get out of here, Alex.
Win some, lose some. Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Corey Ari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
Just for old time's sake, I really don't care who you